The Tonight Show, starring Austin Pierce.
We are here live at the Tonight Show with Austin Pierce. I'm Austin Pierce, and tonight I am joined with a group of people closely related to the famous narrative, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. We have Principal Coleman of the Middletown High School, a school which recently took the narrative out of their curriculum due to offensive language, as well as Mr. Mark Twain and Huckleberry Finn and Jim. Tonight's first question is directed towards Principal Coleman. Principal Coleman, why did you make the executive decision to ban the book of Huckleberry Finn?
Well, Austin, that's a very good question. The book has proven to be a marvelous piece of literature. However, its extended use of the N-word would offend a large number of students at my school and would block their learning capabilities. And many parents have complained, so I've made the executive decision to ban the book.
That's some good insight right there, Principal. Let's hand the microphone over to Mr. Twain. Mr. Twain, how do you feel about this question?
Personally, I'm hurt by the thought of censoring my book. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn that Principal Coleman School is presenting their students is not The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The book that I wrote uses the N-word, and it uses the N-word because I chose to use the N-word, because it provides insight as to the time period and the hardships that everyone in that time period went through. Without that word, it is not the book that I wrote.
Very good, very good. Very good discussion. Okay, now we're going to hand it over to the characters of Huckleberry Finn.
I agree with Mr. Twain. Back then, I was called the N-word every day of my life until I finally ran away to become free.
Yeah, the N-word was used like any other word, really. I don't think much of it when I say it. It's kind of just, it comes to me naturally. And the N-word was a big part of slavery, too. Also, the authenticity would be lacking.
That's great insight from everyone here on the show. All right, the next question of the night. Huck, describe your relationship with Jim as the book progresses. How were you able to risk going to hell for Jim? Was that relationship you guys had a very good one?
At first, Jim and I only really knew each other on the plantation, but then we started to build a relationship. He seemed pretty interesting because he believed in witches, and he said hairballs can tell the future and stuff like that. And then I escaped from Pap, and I found Jim in the woods, and he startled me because I knew he was a runaway slave, and I thought I was going to get in a lot of trouble. But we went through so much. We visited a floating house and almost died together. And when I really started liking Jim, I knew that because I looked God in the eye and said, I'd rather go to hell than to betray my friend. And Pap was a horrible father to me, and Jim was like a father figure, and I love him forever.
That was just a great heartfelt story. Now, I want to hear some feedback from your friend, Jim.
Huck here was my best friend and the only friend I could have ever trusted. I was so gracious for him for going on that journey with me as we reached freedom in the end. And he also never turned me in, which took a lot of courage on his part since he was raised to go against slaves.
Okay, quick question, Mr. Twain. Is that the relationship that you intend to have in your novel?
Well, of course it was. Jim and Huck was a relationship that really had never been seen before in literature. It broke all the boundaries of slavery and crossed the racial barrier between a black man and a white child. And the key nature of the relationship was that they needed each other, no matter whether one was black or one was white. They needed each other to survive. They needed each other for companionship. And I would just like people to know that my intention of writing the book was to show that whether black or white, slave or just a runaway child, people need each other, and if you're a good person, then people will want you to be around them, and they will do good things for you. And Mr. Pierce, if it's okay with you, I'd like to direct a question to Mr. Coleman, because I feel like the intentions of my narrative are lost and caught up in the controversy of the N-word. However, if people like Principal Coleman saw the true nature of the relationship that the racism wasn't the strongest thing in the time period, and that true human nature could prevail, then hopefully they wouldn't prevent students from reading the book, because that's a valuable life lesson.
Oh, no, that's no problem, Mr. Twain. Coleman, if this is what Mr. Twain intended to do, then why did you ban this book from your school? It seems to teach people about the accurate interpretation of how society was during the time of slavery.
Well, although Mr. Twain does have a point, and his intentions of the book are good, and I agree with him, I felt as though his intentions are outdated. And in a racially unstable society we have presently, I felt that the book would bring nothing but drama and controversy towards my black students, and who feel strongly about on the topic of the N-word.
Okay, guys, that is a great discussion, gentlemen. Now come join me and play a game. I'm going to ask you some facts about the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Whoever wins will be able to come back on the late night with me and meet whatever celebrity they want. So, let's start the game.
Austin's Trivia Challenge.
Okay, so the first question of this trivia game is, how long did Mr. Twain work on his narrative before sending it to his first publisher? Okay, boys, it's open to answer. All right, Jim.
2 weeks.
All right. Oh, I saw Huck first.
10 years. Hell's bells!
All right, Mr. Coleman, do you
Actually, was 8 years.
Good for you, Principal Coleman. Okay, next question of the game. How many times in Mr. Twain's novel was the N-word used? All right, gentlemen. The question is open to be answered. All right, Mr. Coleman.
600 times.
I'm sorry, but no. Anyone else? Huck?
I heard it about 70 times, so I'm going with 400.
I'm sorry, Huck. You are not correct. All right, Jim, do you know the answer?
Probably got called it about 219 times.
Very good, Jim. Very good. Okay, so this is the last question of the night. This will determine the winner of the game. Okay, the last question was, how was the American audience first introduced to the character of Huckleberry Finn? All right, gentlemen, this is the last question of the night, so make it a good one. All right, the question is open to be answered. All right, Huckleberry.
It's a tough one. A notebook.
I'm sorry. No, that's not correct. All right, down to the last two gentlemen. Anyone know it? Principal Coleman?
A PowerPoint presentation.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Coleman. All right, Jim, it's all up to you. This is all for the marbles.
Huck's friend, Tom Sawyer.
Yep, that is absolutely correct. Jim, you are the winner of the talk show host game. I'm here with my winner of my talk show host game, and next week we will be having Ernest Hemingway, and we will be talking about his novel, The Sun Also Rises. Jim, would you like to come and talk to Ernest with me?
Who is that? I want LeBron to come.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and tomorrow night at 11, join me, and we'll be talking about everything.